It's the Brian Lehrer Show on WNYC. I'm David First, in for Brian today. Good morning. Electric bills in New Jersey have been going up for a long time, and now the state's new governor says she is stepping in.
I'm going to sign my first in a series of executive orders to declare a state of emergency on utility costs.
As she promised on the campaign trail on day one of her term in office, Governor Mikie Sherrill has signed executive orders aimed at freezing certain utility rate increases, and she declared an energy emergency, framing electricity costs as an affordability crisis for households across the state. The orders also direct regulators to speed up new power generation and take a closer look at where rising demand is coming from, including from large energy-intensive data centers. But New Jersey doesn't set electricity prices on its own. What people pay is shaped by a regional power system that serves multiple states, by long-standing decisions about what kind of energy gets built and connected to the grid, and by a growing gap between how much electricity the region uses and how much it produces. To help us understand what is driving these costs and how utility rates are regulated and what the governor's actions can realistically change, we are joined by Stephen Rodas, environmental reporter for NJ Advance Media. Welcome.
Hey, David. How's it going?
Stephen, thanks so much for being with us. And I know you have a big task ahead of you today to try to explain all of this for us. But Stephen, why have electric bills in New Jersey been rising so steadily over the past several years? I speak as a New Jersey resident that has been receiving some of these bills.
Yes, and I am a fellow New Jerseyan in Jersey City, in fact. So the reason why people's energy bills have been surging, it's been a plethora of things, and sometimes it depends on who you ask, but for the large part, it has to do with data centers in terms of how much energy they use. The fact that we, as a state, there are just many more of us using energy. And if you think about the conversation around supply and demand, PJM, which is the grid operator that oversees, it basically acts like an air traffic controller for the utilities in terms of how it doles out power. But in large part, the conversation about why we're seeing energy bills rise, it has to do, data center growth, the fact that we as a state are, again, we're demanding more energy than we're supplying. The state as a whole, in terms of Governor Murphy's plans in prior years, had to do with creating new sources of energy. So offshore wind, sort of laying down the pathway for solar energy, laying down the pathway for other clean energy options. And when those clean energy options or that infrastructure didn't bear fruit, we ended up in the place we're in now, where we are, as a state, requiring more energy than it seems that we're able to actually produce for households.
And we can very quickly kind of slip into alphabet soup in this discussion, right? You
Yes.
mentioned PJM. And if you could come back to that just a little bit more, what role does the regional grid operator PJM play in determining prices for New Jersey customers?
Yes, I agree, David. It's really easy to get into the weeds. So PJM, which is the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland interconnection.
Catchy.
Yes. Just clicks off the mind. It's a massive regional transmission organization. It's how it's described. But yes, so they basically work with the four major utilities in New Jersey. So PSE&G, which I'm sure listeners are aware of, Jersey Central Power and Light, Atlantic City Electric, and Rockland Electric Company. Those are the four major ones. So they set the prices for how the utilities can then set their prices via auctions that they host every year. So they set the prices for the upcoming year at the auctions that they themselves host.
And if you want to challenge us with some questions, please join this conversation. Our phones are open for your calls. We want to hear from you in New Jersey. How much are you paying for electricity right now? Has it gone up noticeably in the past few years? Have higher bills changed how you heat or cool your home and how you use electricity day to day? Give us a call, 212-433-9692. That's 212-433-WNYC. Stephen, when people get their bill, there's this number that we see. But what are the biggest components that go into what they're paying?
Absolutely. So I would say the biggest components that go into what they're actually paying come from how often, as a region, whatever region you lie in, and therefore whatever utility you rely on or you're connected to, how much power is being generated in those areas. So if there's, for example, a very particular hot month during the summer and there's peak demand, a lot of air conditioners are on, suddenly that means there is stress on the grid, and therefore people use more power. That collectively can then mean in July or August or what have you, suddenly not only are individual households seeing their bills go up, but an entire region can see that sort of reverberate.
I want to play another clip from Governor Sherrill's inauguration, and here she was getting her pen ready.
I'm issuing an executive order giving the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities the authority to pause new utility requests for additional rate increases, and I will freeze rate hikes to finally provide families with real relief on their energy bills.
So Governor Sherrill is leaning on the Board of Public Utilities, or BPU, which oversees the state's utilities, to curb rate hikes. Her executive order number 1, quote, empowers the Board of Public Utilities to pause or modify utility actions that could further increase bills. What can the board actually do for customers, and what is beyond its control?
Absolutely. So the Board of Public Utilities, which should be noted, is a primarily governor-appointed board. So therefore, it's very much going to take the lead of the new governor. They can, in fact, based on specific actions they take at upcoming meetings, pause or freeze utility customers' rates, except that money has to come from somewhere, right, David? So the plan right now, based on the executive order, it's about a 9-page executive order that the governor released, talks about using money from clauses in utility charges that residents see on their bills to offset the those costs. So basically, the state is looking to cover those costs via the credits that they're allowing folks to take advantage of. So again, the board can, and the plan is to start this in July, sort of give relief to customers, whether it's temporary relief or how things, where the cards fall ultimately, we shall see. But one thing that I think is also important to note is that in Governor Sherrill's remarks, she spoke about the second executive order, which wants via executive action, solicit new solar and storage power generation. They want to modernize gas and nuclear generation. Again, that's sort of a long-term view. But that gets to the second part of your question, David, which is what is not in the Board of Public Utilities or the state of New Jersey's hands, which is PJM and what actions they take. Environmental advocates have long complained that there has been a backlog of solar energy projects, for example, interconnecting to the grid, and that there have been fossil fuel, other power generators that are more in the fossil fuel nuclear energy realm that have been given more leeway to then prosper and to then provide power to their region. So what's not in the state's hands is what exactly happens next in terms of what actions PJM may take, what the grid operator lays the pathway for themselves.
We're speaking with Stephen Rodas with New Jersey Advanced Media, and we have so many questions to get to. If you would like to join this conversation, 212-433-WNYC. That's 212-433-9692. And Stephen, as you were talking about solar, we were getting a text at that exact moment, someone writing in to say, why is so little being done to grow rooftop solar? There's so much rooftop space in New Jersey. Why do we not have much, much more solar panels on the rooftops of buildings, offices, warehouses, etc.?
Absolutely. So I think the response to that is multi-pronged. I mean, for one, it does in large part go back to a comment I had just made about interconnecting to the grid. If let's say a company or a homeowner or someone who owns a warehouse, which as a state in New Jersey, we have a lot of rooftop space on warehouses, as I'm sure you know. They might in some cases not be ready or very eager to sort of connect to a large solar array or solar panels to power the energy for them, because it takes so long, or they've seen it take so long to connect to the grid, and there isn't a whole lot of incentive down the line to say, okay, let's invest X amount of money. And of course, it can be expensive to install solar panels if we know there's going to be a delay in connecting to the grid, which it defeats the point if you can't connect to the grid by just having a large blue solar array up on top. And I think the other part has to do with I think the agency that people may have in New Jersey. You might be someone that is very pro adding solar panels to your roof, but if you're a renter, if you're a homeowner where the infrastructure or the setup of your roof isn't exactly conducive to a solar panel, you might want to sort of take the step of going solar, but you're sort of limited in actually doing it because infrastructure, sort of rears its head in, and you're limited in that way too.
If you'd like to call in with a question or a comment, 212-433-9692. James in Manhattan, welcome to the Brian Lehrer Show.
Thank you very much for having me. Good show. You know what? I moved from New York to New Jersey.
Oh, you just moved to New Jersey?
Yes, about 4 months ago. I had a cheaper rent, so I jumped onto it, only for me to know that utility bills is going to send me packing.
Oh, so you've been shocked by the utility bill that you received?
Last month I got $441 bill on a 3-bedroom flat, and this month it was $557.
Wow.
I got a bill right now with me, $557 for 30 days. I went to the office yesterday. They said there's nothing they can do. That's how the system is set up. That is because of the heating that I was using. I'm like, it's just a 3-bedroom flat. And most times I work in the city of Manhattan, and I leave home 7 a.m., get home by 7, 8 a.m. Only my son is home. Why do I have to pay this kind of bill? They say, well, there's nothing they can do about it.
Well, Stephen, let's hear more about that. There it is, right there, right? As Governor Sherrill is going to be tackling the affordability crisis. Let's get into that. What does declaring a freeze on utility rates, as she has done, actually do? For, this was a big campaign promise. Some people may be feeling like that freeze will have an immediate impact on their bills. Maybe they would start to reduce what they're paying. But let's talk about reality here. What will that do?
Yeah, reality, unfortunately for folks that want something, very much in front of them that solves this, it tells us that next month, the month after, it doesn't suddenly mean, because of her announcement, because of the executive orders, because of this declaration on this sort of larger issue, that suddenly people's bills will fall. And we spoke with ratepayers that saw their bills $400, $500 last summer, increases 20, 22%, sometimes even more. So we know from talking with readers and hearing from listeners that people are very much seeing their pockets hurt with what their bills are reflecting. So in the very immediate, there won't suddenly be a decrease. We know utilities are offering, in some cases, resources for folks to look into, but the plan for New Jersey, based on the executive orders that Governor Sherrill announced, the plan is to have them, take effect in the summer, as of July. So there might be some, yes, there might be some specific relief based on what people are seeing on their bills, based on where they are and what utility serves them.
And following up on that, Stephen, this notion of Governor Sherrill declaring the freeze, I know she said it, but does that have teeth? Does her saying it make it so?
So whether that sort of has power, and like you're saying, whether it has teeth, I think the very unsatisfactory but real answer is we shall see. We do, as a state, have to hunker down in a way to see exactly how this plays out. There's it's a new governor, it's a new administration. The board of public utilities is very much going to take this baton and run ahead. I spoke with the folks at PJM this morning, in fact, and they told me that they quote, we are, they quote said, we are looking forward to working with the Sherrill administration as partners to identify practical solutions in the months and years ahead. They're very much interested in working with the governor as well. So there's a lot that's working, in favor of the governor in terms of starting off on this foot and fulfilling the pledge of at least taking this step and signing these two executive orders on her first day in office. But the dust hasn't settled yet, I think would be the short answer.
We're here with Stephen Rodas of New Jersey Advanced Media, and let's take another one of your questions. Geraldine, calling in from Caldwell, New Jersey. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. My question is, I'm wondering if there's a different rate for residential customers versus the corporate customers that are running these big data centers. Because I'm wondering if the cost trickles down to the residential users when corporations are making lots of money and using these big data centers.
Geraldine, that's a great question. Thank you for calling in. Data centers, a big part of the story, right? What about that?
No, it's a great question, and we know lots of folks in New Jersey are interested in what data centers do to their communities and how they might impact their own rates. So, the straightforward what does it mean to have a data center use X amount of power next door to me or in my neighborhood? What does that mean for my own rates? They are responsible for paying, of course, the rates based on the power that they use. And in the case of a data center, they're of course going to use much more than a household. So that translates in terms of what they're seeing reflected. But I think that as a legislature and as a state, new folks in that administration, lawmakers that have been in office are interested in having the data centers pay an additional charge, or at least be responsible for water, the energy that the power generators that they need on their grounds produce and use in terms of power and energy, how that impacts the grid sort of in the long term too. So they are responsible for paying the power for the power that they use. But I think New Jersey has also been very at the forefront about wanting to think about, if these proliferate, what other payments, what other funds should they also be responsible for providing for?
Should they be responsible for paying for perhaps grid upgrades built to serve them, paying for new power plants and some of that infrastructure?
Things like that, exactly, yeah.
Getting a text right now about data centers. Someone writing in saying, I recently viewed a map of New Jersey's data centers. It appears that the majority of them are in North Jersey in the cities. I also read that many of the northern centers serve parts of New York City. If that's true, how is that fair to New Jersey residents?
So we know right now that data centers use about 4% of the total power in New Jersey, but that's expected to triple that, by 2030, according to the Board of Public Utilities in New Jersey. Whether it's fair or not that energy used by a data center in a neighboring state isn't translating to grid impacts or rate impacts in the other state. I think that's part of these conversations that are currently happening. So whether it's New York, New Jersey, of course Pennsylvania, state lawmakers and state leaders are currently conversing about this, figuring this out. And I think it's important to know too that PJM, the grid operator, they provide their services and partnering with utilities for 13 states plus DC. So yes, it's important to think about the data centers that exist within your own state and how that impacts the grid. But the way that grids work is regional. So a proliferation of data centers in Virginia, which it is the case that there are more there. That is also part of the conversation, and that does trickle down to states that share that grid operator.
I want to get to another one of your calls. Hilda in Robbinsville, New Jersey. Welcome.
Hello. I have an EV. I've owned it for 2.5 years. PSEG, E&G in Central New Jersey has a wonderful off-peak program where they give you credits towards your bill. I've been communicating with them over the last week, and I have found out that effective April 1st, they are discontinuing the EV credit program. And lieu, and June 1st, PSE&G was planning on doing terms, time of use, where different parts of the day you pay different rates for your energy, whether it's an EV or with any kind of energy in your home. And, depending on when you charge your EV, it would definitely make your bill go up. And I don't know if the public is aware of this, but when you have an EV, you really should be having it plugged in, even so it's not charging. You can have it charged at an off-peak time of day, but during the day it should be plugged in so it gets a little juice during the day, but it's not charging. But it's going to definitely affect EV users. And also, it's also going to affect everybody in New Jersey with this, if they implement this time of use.
Stephen,
so I'm just concerned with the freezing with Sherrill. Is this going to affect this time of use program? And then basically between April and June 1st, the EV users will be paying a flat rate and not getting credits.
Stephen, is that an aspect you're familiar with?
So I don't know all of the ins and outs of that part of this conversation in terms of electric vehicle users and the credits that program via PSE&G or other utilities could provide. But I know that definitely brings to mind something else that would be important to know about what's not in New Jersey's hands, and that's what happens on the federal level, which this connects to no pun intended. The state is in some ways at the mercy of federal decision making involving what kind of energy the Trump administration is interested in incentivizing. So that does not involve solar energy. That does not involve electric vehicles. The state has worked to make strides in terms of incentivizing electric vehicle users or prospective electric vehicle users. But if, as a federal government, there are less incentives to buy these vehicles, to install those electric vehicle chargers, that will just by the nature of what folks see when they're going to dealerships or when they're shopping, that will have the impact of having fewer folks take that step and go that route.
So sure, Stephen, as we're wrapping up here, I'm going to have to ask you to solve this for us. As we're running out of time, what are some of the realistic long-term options for bringing costs down while keeping the grid reliable and meeting climate goals?
Absolutely. So I think that we are uniquely positioned to face this, perhaps in a way that's Not easy, for lack of a better phrase. We're 9 million residents, more than 3.5 million homes here in New Jersey. We're very dense, so this is a tough challenge for other places around the country. And we know nationwide power prices have gone up by a little over 6%. But when it comes to New Jersey, I think it very much has to do with people being very cognizant of the power they use, of the services that are on hand, and I think becoming much more familiar with just how everything that involves how they get their power works. It might seem simple, but I don't know if PJM or grid operators or any number of words or phrases that we've bandied about in this conversation were in the lexicon even 4 years ago. So I think people are much more familiar with how this all works. But from speaking with families that have seen their rates increase, from environmental advocates, even lawmakers on both sides of the fence, when it comes to their party, they've all said that everyone being much more informed about how this all works will make it much more clear what they want, and that could only help drive a solution for the future. So,
Stephen, how much is this backlog of clean energy projects a factor? These projects waiting to connect to the grid.
Yeah. Yes. I would say it's a pretty big it's a pretty big factor. I mean, when we spoke with PJM, they spoke about the fact that they are aware of the importance of properly vetting projects, regardless of the kind of energy that they use. But when the BPU president spoke in a hearing last year, she spoke about nearly 80 New Jersey energy projects that were clean energy, so solar and storage, that were waiting in the interconnection review for years, for a very long time. And it's similar to conversations that folks have about offshore wind or battery storage. If there are pieces of infrastructure or projects that are not getting interconnected, where the path isn't being laid for them to move forward, that is going to just naturally have a chilling effect on other companies, other developers, other people that want to do the same thing. So I would say that's where it plays a big role.
We're going to have to leave it there for now. Really, so many more questions. And thank you so much for all of the phone calls and the questions that were coming in. And Stephen Rodas, environmental reporter for New Jersey Advance Media, thank you for joining us.
David, thanks.
Since WNYC's first broadcast in 1924, we've been dedicated to creating the kind of content we know the world needs. Since then, New York Public Radio's rigorous journalism has gone on to win a Peabody Award and a DuPont Columbia Award, among others. In addition to this award-winning reporting, your sponsorship also supports inspiring storytelling and extraordinary music that is free and accessible to all. To get in touch and find out more, visit sponsorship.wnyc.org.